Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping back into ancient Greece, but not the polished marble temples or grand celebrations you might expect. No, this is the gritty reality of living as a stranger in a city where every look, every word, can decide whether you survive or disappear. It's a world of suspicion, harsh laws, and unspoken rules that cut deeper than any sword. So before you settle in, take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if this kind of deep dive into history is your thing. Drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always amazing to see who's joining us from around the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease gently into tonight's immersive journey together. It's not so much that you wake up, it's that the first light, pale, not quite gold yet, nudges your eyelids open like a slow tide. The air is cooler than you expected, still holding the night's dampness like a thick cloak you forgot to take off. Your bed, if you can call it that, is a thin mat of woven reeds and wool, spread on the cold floor of a small stone room that smells of dust, olive oil, and something faintly sour, maybe old sweat or forgotten bread crusts. You try to stretch, but the rough wool tunic binding your arms feels like it shrinks the moment you move. Outside, the chorus begins. A mix of bleating goats, distant roosters, and a woman singing low in her courtyard. The voices aren't soothing, exactly. More like a reminder that the world has started turning without you while you slept, and it's in no hurry to wait. You sit up slowly, rubbing the gritty sleep from your eyes with a sleeve that was probably dyed once, but now looks faded and stained. The fabric scratches your skin, a coarse, unyielding kind of fabric made for utility, not comfort. Your feet hit the cold flagstones of the floor, rough and uneven beneath your calloused skin. There's no soft carpet here, no thick blanket to wrap around your shoulders, only the faint smell of herbs tucked in the corners, meant to keep the bugs away, but doing little to comfort you. You glance around the room. A clay jug cracked along the rim, a low wooden bench, and a narrow window set high into the thick stone wall. Through it, you can see the orange blush of dawn stretching over the hills and the olive groves beyond. Somewhere nearby, a donkey brays, protesting the early hour as if it knows better. This is Athens, or so you're told, though the word feels strange on your tongue. The city hums just beyond the walls, alive and restless. But you're not a citizen here. Not really. You're a stranger, a visitor, and the difference shows in every look you catch from the locals. Their eyes are sharp, curious, sometimes suspicious. Your clothes are too thick, your hair too untamed, your manner too clumsy for a place where life is measured by laws older than your own ancestors. You stand, muscles stiff from the cold night. Your sandals, cracked and dusty, are the first thing you must find. Walking barefoot on these streets is a gamble. Sharp stones, hot sun, and the occasional stray shard of pottery waiting to cut deep. You stumble over a loose pebble, cursing silently, reminding yourself that grace is a survival skill here, and you have none. Outside your room, a narrow stone corridor leads toward the courtyard. The noise grows louder. Men's voices debating politics, women calling out to one another, children chasing each other in a dusty game. The smell of baking bread mingles with the faint aroma of olive oil frying in cast iron pans. Your stomach grumbles, reminding you that the last meal was hours ago, a meager portion of dry barley, and olives that barely filled the hollow ache in your gut. You step into the courtyard, blinking against the brightening sky. A cluster of people surrounds a low stone fountain, its water shimmering in the early light. You watch as a man washes his hands, then another comes to fill a clay jug. Water here is precious, and the way they treat it, with care, reverence, makes you realize how little you understand the rules of this place. You need food. But this city isn't a market of plenty for someone like you. The streets are lined with stalls selling figs, fresh fish, cheeses, and freshly baked bread, but the prices are steep. You've learned quickly that coin is king, and your pockets are nearly empty. Barter is possible, but your goods are few, and the language is a tangled knot on your tongue. You move on, weaving through crowds of men in short tunics and sandals, women with their hair bound neatly under scarves, children darting between legs. A stray dog eyes you, low growl rumbling in its throat as you pass. You realize you don't know what the customs are for greeting or avoiding trouble here. You feel the weight of every glance, some curious, others colder, like a warning. You find yourself in a narrow alley where the shadows cling, and the air smells stronger, of sweat, refuse, and something sour, maybe spoiled fish. Rats skitter at your feet. You want to turn back, but you know the main square is your destination. This is where the city's life pulses strongest, the agora. The agora, a place where philosophers debate, merchants sell, and citizens gather to talk laws and war plans. You hear the distant clatter of sandals on marble, the murmur of voices lifted in heated discussion. But to you, it's a crowd of strangers, many of whom would rather you not be here. You try to catch snippets of conversation, but the language slips past you like water. You know only a few words, greetings, numbers, the names of a few gods, but it's not enough to survive here.
Not yet.
A merchant's sharp voice cuts through the noise.
Fresh fish!
Caught this morning in the bay. The crowd swells toward the stall, and you step back, watching as a woman with sharp eyes and a knife slices through a silver, scaled fish. The smell is pungent, but tempting. You realize you haven't eaten properly in 2 days. Hunger gnaws at your belly like a relentless dog. You'd trade anything for a piece of bread or a fig, but your coins jingle only faintly in your purse, a reminder of how little you have. The local currency, drachma, is strange and confusing, with symbols that mean nothing to you except that they belong to someone richer, someone more at home here. You turn away, trying not to feel the sharp sting of envy toward the regulars. Instead, you look up toward the Acropolis, the great rock rising over the city, crowned by the temples to Athena and Zeus. It's a reminder of power, tradition, and history. A place where citizens come to swear oaths and hear the speeches of great men. You know you don't belong here. You don't speak the language well. You don't follow the customs, and your clothes mark you as an outsider. Your hands bear the roughness of a foreign labor, your skin too pale under the harsh Mediterranean sun. A sudden shout nearby pulls your attention. A young boy is chasing a chicken, laughter trailing after him. You watch, feeling a pang of longing for the simplicity of that moment, the carefree life you left behind. But you remember that here, every moment is a test. You move on toward the city gates, where a guard eyes you with suspicion. His armor gleams, polished bronze catching the morning sun, and the short sword at his side speaks of authority. You force a smile, but it doesn't reach your eyes. Where do you come from? He asks in clipped tones. You hesitate. What answer will keep you safe? The truth? A lie? You say the name of a village far to the north, a place the guard doesn't know. He narrows his eyes but says nothing, turning away with a grunt. You breathe out slowly. Survival here means blending in, learning the customs, and speaking the language quickly. Otherwise, you will be lost, and that you realize is just the beginning. The sun rises higher now, spilling a harsh, golden light over the city's limestone streets. You shield your eyes, but the glare burns through your fingers anyway. The heat is different here, dry, sharp, and unforgiving. Your tunic, once slightly stiff from sleeping, clings to your back with sweat, and you feel the weight of your own skin tightening under the sun's press. You keep moving, but every step reminds you of how unfamiliar this place is. The people here speak quickly, their words flowing over you like an uncatchable current. You try to listen, to pick out meaning, but it all sounds like song and noise mixed, some angry, some laughing, some urgent. They talk about the city, the gods, politics, and wars you only half understand from distant stories. At the agora again, merchants shout their wares with practiced enthusiasm.
Fresh figs! Sweet honeycomb!
Leather sandals, made by the best craftsmen in the city. The cries overlap in a chaotic chorus, filling the square with a sharp smell of sweat, dust, and ripe fruit. You wander, eyes flickering over the displays. The fruits glisten like jewels. Pomegranates, olives, grapes. You reach out, but your fingers hesitate. You have no coin for these pleasures, and stealing would be a death sentence here, a risk far too great. The eyes of the crowd watch for troublemakers, and you know you don't want to be the one caught. Instead, you find a shady spot beneath a low colonnade, the stone pillars worn smooth from centuries of hands tracing their surfaces. The shadows cool the air slightly, but you shiver anyway, not from cold, but from a deep-rooted unease. You think about language, or rather, the lack of it. The words here twist around you like an invisible wall. You've learned some phrases, basic greetings, how to ask for water or directions, a few prayers to the gods. But it's not enough to navigate the complexities of this bustling city. You try to imagine how this city might look to one of its own citizens, a tapestry woven tightly with history, pride, and unspoken rules. But to you, it is a labyrinth with no clear path, every corner a question mark, every smile a possible warning. A woman passes by, her eyes sharp beneath a finely embroidered veil. She carries a basket of small cakes dusted with sesame seeds. You stare, your mouth watering, and for a moment forget your hunger. Then her eyes meet yours. There is no kindness in them, only the cold calculation of someone who knows their place and knows yours even better. You quickly look away. Survival here isn't just about food or shelter, it's about knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to approach and when to disappear. Nearby, a group of young men train in the courtyard, their bodies taut and sweating as they wield wooden swords. Their teacher, an older man with a weathered face, calls out instructions in clipped, commanding tones. The men's movements are sharp, deliberate, perfected through repetition. You watch, fascinated. Strength and discipline like this are currency here, more valuable than coin or kindness. You wonder if you could ever master such skills. Your hands are rough and clumsy, more used to awkward labor than the elegant art of war. And the sun beats down harder as the men spar, their bodies gleaming with sweat and dust. A sudden shout splits the air. A man stumbles and his opponent delivers a swift, controlled blow. The man falls to one knee, breathing hard, face flushed. You see respect in their eyes even in competition, a bond formed by shared struggle. It's something you have never known in this city, a place where respect must be earned and never taken for granted. You push off from the wall and make your way toward a small shop where leather goods hang from the ceiling. The smell of tanned hides fills the cramped space, rich and pungent. The craftsman, a squat man with a ruddy face, looks up as you enter. You fumble with the few coins you have, hoping to trade for a better pair of sandals. Your current ones have holes in the soles, and every step is a reminder of your vulnerability. The man counts your coins slowly, eyes flickering with calculation. No, he says finally, in a tone that brooks no argument. Not enough. You nod, trying not to betray your disappointment. You know the price is fair, it's your lack of currency that's the problem. The man shrugs and turns back to his work. Outside again, the streets bustle, with merchants pushing carts loaded with spices and cloth, philosophers debating politics in small groups, and women hauling heavy water jars balanced on their heads. Children dart between legs, laughing and shouting, their faces bright with the careless joy you once had. You watch a man pour water from a large amphora into a basin, then wash his face and hands. The water sparkles under the sun, precious and fleeting. You step forward, desperate for a drink, but he pulls back, eyeing you suspiciously. Water is for citizens, he says flatly, and those who pay their dues. You step away, parched, the dry heat crawling into your throat and settling like a desert wind. Your mouth tastes bitter and dusty. You think about the gods, those distant figures worshipped here with such fervor. You've seen statues, massive and imposing, of Zeus with his thunderbolt, Athena with her owl. Temples rise high above the city, their columns white and gleaming. Yet you wonder if they care for a stranger like you, lost and wandering through their sacred streets. You remember a phrase you learned. I am a stranger. You try to say it aloud, but the words stumble clumsily from your lips. You hear laughter behind you, and you turn quickly to see a group of boys pointing and whispering. The sting of being an outsider hits again. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders, a thin shield against the invisible walls closing in. You find a quiet corner near the steps of a temple and sit, exhausted. The rough stone bites into your legs through your thin trousers, but you welcome the discomfort as a reminder you are still alive. Your stomach growls loudly, a reminder of the meal you have not eaten and the days without proper food. You imagine the feasts the wealthy enjoy, the roasted meats, fresh bread, wine that flows freely. Here, for you, there is only the pottage of barley and greens, watery and bland, and the stale bread that scrapes at your teeth like sandpaper. You close your eyes, imagining a place far from here, where the sun is softer and the nights quieter. You think of warm beds, simple food, and familiar faces. But this city is no refuge. A sudden voice breaks your thoughts. Are you lost? You startle and look up to see a woman standing nearby, her eyes softer than the others, her expression curious rather than hostile. She wears a simple tunic, her hair wrapped in a cloth, and her hands carry a small basket of herbs. You nod, unsure how to answer. She gestures to the market stalls and the bustling streets. You do not belong here, she says gently, in your own tongue. You nod again, feeling the weight of truth settle on your chest like a stone. You need help, she continues. Come, I will show you where to find water and food. For a moment you hesitate. Trust is scarce here, but her eyes hold no judgment, only something like kindness. You rise and follow her, feeling a flicker of hope flicker faintly in your chest. But you know this kindness is fragile, as delicate as the olive leaves that fall in autumn, and just as easily crushed. You follow her down narrow, winding streets that twist like a maze between whitewashed walls and vine-draped balconies. The morning sun climbs steadily, making the shadows retreat, revealing cracked pottery, faded murals of gods and heroes, and the worn footprints of generations past. Her pace is steady, sure, the kind of surety you envy. You stumble now and then, tripping over loose stones or uneven steps, and she glances back with a patient smile, as if she's seen this many times before. You want to ask her name, but the words don't come out, tangled in your tongue like a clumsy dance you haven't learned yet. The city smells sharp and layered, freshly baked bread, sun, warm stone, a faint trace of goat cheese, and something harsher beneath it all, smoke from the blacksmith's forge and the tang of salt from the distant sea. You breathe it in, trying to root yourself here, to claim some small piece of this place. She leads you to a well tucked between two market stalls, its stone rim worn smooth from centuries of hands resting there. The water inside is clear and cool, glinting with the reflection of the blue sky. You dip your cupped hands into it and drink deeply, the liquid washing away some of the dryness clawing at your throat. You must be careful, she says quietly. Not all water is clean, and not everyone shares. You nod, swallowing your thirst and glancing around. Even here, in the bustling heart of the city, you feel eyes watching you, some curious, others wary. She gestures toward a nearby stall stacked with round loaves of bread, their crusts golden and crackling. The baker eyes you as you approach, his face lined and rough like a well-worn scroll, but when you lift a hand to ask the price, his gaze hardens. Money, he says bluntly, or nothing. You bite back a sigh. Coin is scarce. You reach into your pouch and count out the few copper coins you've managed to scrape together since arriving. They barely cover a single loaf, let alone enough to stave off hunger. She nudges a small coin forward to the baker, and he grunts, handing over a piece of bread broken from a larger loaf. It's warm and fragrant, but dense and heavy, with a crumb so thick it threatens to choke you if you bite too hard. You break it carefully, nibbling at the edges, trying to stretch the small meal as far as it will go. Hunger gnaws, but you tell yourself that it's enough for now. How do you speak so well? You ask her, your words hesitant, halting. She shrugs, a quick movement that sends loose strands of hair tumbling free. I grew up here, she says simply. But not everyone is kind. You want to tell her that you are from far away, from lands where the sun sets differently, and the gods wear other faces. But the words stick in your throat. Instead, you nod and let the silence hang between you. She pulls a small piece of parchment from her basket and unrolls it. On it are scribbles and symbols that look like strange little trees and waves, the mysterious marks of the Greek alphabet. You must learn, she says, pointing at the symbols. Language is survival. You reach out, tracing a finger over the inked lines, feeling the rough texture of the paper. It seems impossible to grasp, like a secret code only the city's children know. The city around you pulses with sound and motion. Vendors hawking wares, children shouting games, the clatter of wooden wheels on stone. But inside your head, the noise quiets, replaced by the hum of new knowledge forming slowly. You spend the next hours sitting with her on a worn stone bench, practicing the strange sounds. Alpha, beta, gamma, repeating the phrases she teaches, stumbling over syllables until your tongue aches. Good, she says finally, a rare smile breaking her usual calm. You will survive if you learn, but you know better. Language is only one piece of this puzzle, and your heart weighs heavy with the knowledge that every day here is a test. Later, as the sun climbs high, you part ways with her near a small temple. She presses the parchment into your hand, her eyes steady. Go slowly, she warns. Watch the city. Learn its rhythm. You watch her disappear into the crowd, a fleeting figure swallowed by the endless tide of city life. Left alone, you wander back toward the agora, your steps lighter now, but your mind restless. You notice the small details you missed before. The careful way a woman wraps a child's head with cloth. The methodical folding of scrolls in a philosopher's satchel. The way a merchant counts coins with quick, precise fingers. You feel the weight of eyes on you again. This time, not all are hostile. Some seem curious, others wary, but a few watch with something that might be kindness. You realize survival here means more than food, water, or shelter. It means becoming invisible and visible at once, learning when to blend in and when to stand out. Your stomach grumbles again, reminding you that the day is still young and your hunger is a constant companion. You find a small tavern nestled in a shadowed corner. The air inside is thick with smoke and the scent of roasting meat, though your nose tells you the portions here are reserved for the wealthier guests. You settle for a cup of watered, down wine and a small plate of olives and hard cheese. The wine burns a little going down, but it soothes the dry ache inside your chest. Around you, the tavern buzzes with talk. Sailors swapping stories of distant ports, farmers discussing the coming harvest, and soldiers boasting of battles fought and won. Their voices rise and fall in a rhythm you start to understand, a language not only of words but of gestures, glances, and silences. You watch them carefully, trying to read the unspoken rules of this world. A soldier catches your gaze and nods once, sharply. You nod back, heart pounding. It's a small thing, but it feels like a victory. The day drifts toward evening, the sun lowering and turning the sky the color of ripe figs. You walk slowly back to your room, the city's stones cooling beneath your feet. Inside, the quiet is a relief. You sit by the small window, watching the stars blink to life one by one, distant and cold but constant. You think of home again, the soft beds and gentle nights, the voices you loved. You wonder if this strange city will ever feel like yours. But for now, you are a stranger still, a visitor learning to speak, to survive, to endure. And tomorrow, the test begins again. The next morning creeps in with a pale light that creeps through the cracks of your wooden shutters, casting jagged stripes across the stone floor. You awaken not to the gentle sound of birdsong, but to the distant clang of metal striking metal. A smith at work, shaping iron for swords, plows, or perhaps some new gladiatorial weapon. The noise, harsh and relentless, settles over the city like a warning. You rise slowly, muscles aching from yesterday's strain, and the unfamiliar softness of the thin mattress beneath you. Your tunic feels rough as ever, the scratchy fabric already clinging damply to your skin. Outside, the city stirs quickly, as if time itself hurries in this place, pushing you forward whether you want it or not. You step outside, and immediately the heat presses down, sharper and more unforgiving than you anticipated. The sun stands high, relentless, turning the stone streets to a furnace. You blink against the glare, shading your eyes as you navigate the labyrinthine alleys toward the marketplace. You have learned a few more words since yesterday, enough to greet a vendor, ask the price of bread, and say thank you. But these words feel like shards of glass when spoken, jagged and brittle in your mouth. You listen carefully to those around you, picking up rhythms and cadences, hoping to weave your tongue into their language. Today, your challenge is not hunger but custom, the invisible rules that govern every glance, every gesture, every movement. In this city, you have learned, respect is earned not just by strength, but by knowing when to speak and when to keep silent, when to bow and when to stand tall. You watch a group of men gather in a small square, their voices rising and falling in heated debate. Their faces are lined with the marks of toil and wisdom, their eyes sharp and fierce. They argue about laws, gods and wars, subjects that feel distant and foreign, but carry the weight of life and death here. You step closer, trying to understand, but their words blur together. A man notices your confusion and sneers, pointing at your worn clothes. The laughter that follows is quiet but sharp like a blade. You feel the sting of exclusion, a reminder that your difference is a barrier as real as the city's stone walls. You move away quickly, finding refuge in a quiet corner where the scent of herbs lingers. You breathe deeply, letting the aroma calm the restless edge inside you. Then, a soft voice breaks through your thoughts. You don't belong here. You turn to see a woman standing nearby, her eyes kind but tired. She wears a simple tunic, and her hair is braided loosely down her back. No, you say quietly. I'm learning. She nods slowly. Good, but you must learn more than words. You must learn their ways. As she speaks of custom, the rituals of greeting, the deference owed to elders, the way men and women carry themselves in public, and the sacred observances that govern daily life. You realize how little you know. Simple things you never considered before. How to pour wine without spilling. How to sit at a symposium. When to raise your voice and when to lower it. Are all part of survival here. She takes your hand and leads you to a small gathering where women prepare food for a festival. The air is thick with the scent of roasting lamb, fresh herbs, and baked bread. You watch as they move with practiced grace, their fingers deftly kneading dough, arranging olives and cheeses on platters, their voices soft but purposeful. You try to imitate their movements, but your hands are awkward and clumsy. They smile politely, but do not invite you to join. You realize you are an outsider in every sense. As the sun sinks lower, the festival begins. Torches light the streets, casting flickering shadows on the whitewashed walls. Music swells from a small gathering of musicians, lyres and flutes blending into a haunting melody. You stand at the edge of the crowd, watching as dancers move with fluid grace, their bodies telling stories of gods and heroes, love and war. You feel the weight of your own isolation. The people around you celebrate their heritage, their gods, their city, and you feel like a ghost haunting a world you cannot claim. A man approaches you, his face weathered and stern. He speaks sharply in a language you are only beginning to understand, but you catch the word citizen. No, you say softly. I am a stranger. He frowns, then nods slowly, as if acknowledging a hard truth. Then you must learn fast, or leave. The night deepens, and the festival fades. You return to your small room, the sounds of laughter and music still echoing in your ears. You sit by the window, the city lights shimmering below. You think of the day ahead, the language, the customs, the endless rules you must master. Survival here will not come easily. It will take more than food and shelter. It will take patience, cunning, and a willingness to change in ways you cannot yet imagine. You close your eyes, feeling the city's heartbeat beneath you, relentless and unforgiving. And you wonder if you are strong enough to keep pace. The morning sun presses down like a relentless overseer, its light unforgiving and raw against your skin. You awake with the taste of dust in your mouth and a dull ache in your shoulders, remnants of the stone bench you slept on the night before. The air inside your small room is thick and stagnant, smelling faintly of olive oil and stale bread. Your limbs feel stiff, and your joints creak as you push yourself upright. Outside, the city is already stirring. The distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the bleating of goats, and the low murmur of voices blend into a familiar, if unsettling, morning chorus. You dress carefully, pulling on your rough, spun tunic and trying to smooth the wrinkles in your trousers. Your sandals are cracked and worn, the leather softened by sweat and dust. You step out into the narrow street, the stones hot beneath your feet despite the early hour. Sweat beads on your forehead, and you wipe it away with the back of your hand. The smell of baking bread and roasting meat fills the air, mingling with the scent of fresh herbs sold by a woman hawking her wares nearby. Your stomach growls, a sharp reminder that the meager bread and olives from yesterday did little to sate your hunger. You scan the street for any sign of work or exchange. The city is alive with merchants setting up stalls, craftsmen opening their shops, and farmers unloading carts heavy with produce. A man with a stern face and leather apron approaches, carrying bundles of freshly harvested olives. He eyes you suspiciously, his gaze lingering on your worn clothes and unfamiliar face. You attempt to ask if he needs help, your tongue stumbling over the foreign words. He shakes his head, his expression hardening. No coin, no work. You nod, knowing the truth in his words all too well. Coin is scarce, and work harder to come by for a stranger with no connections. As you move through the busy marketplace, Your eyes catch a small notice nailed to a wooden post. The letters are faded, but you recognize the word for debt, and the name of a local lender. You know that debts here are no light matter. Failure to repay can lead to imprisonment or worse. You pause, considering your own precarious situation. The few coins you carry were gifted out of kindness from the woman who helped you before, but they will not last long. Without work, you face the slow spiral into poverty and desperation. You continue walking, weaving through the crowded streets until you reach a small tavern. Inside, the air is thick with smoke and the heavy scent of wine. The tavern keeper eyes you as you enter, a mixture of curiosity and suspicion in his gaze. You ask for a cup of wine and the smallest portion of food he can offer. The wine is watered down and sour, but it soothes the dryness in your throat. The food, a few olives and a piece of hard cheese, is barely enough to quiet your hunger, but you eat slowly, savoring every bite. As you sit, you overhear a conversation between two men at a nearby table. They speak of the city's politics, of battles won and lost, and of debts owed to powerful men. Their words are harsh and laden with meaning you do not fully grasp. One man mentions a debt collector known for his cruelty, and you shiver at the thought. In this city, debts are chains that bind men and women alike, and the weight of obligation can crush even the strongest spirit. You finish your meal and step back into the sun, feeling its oppressive heat settle over you like a heavy cloak. You make your way toward the city's fountain, where a group of women gather to fill their jugs with water. You watch as one woman skillfully balances a large jar on her head, her posture straight and steady. You try to imitate her but falter, nearly dropping your own vessel. She smiles kindly but says nothing. Water is precious here, and you realize that every drop must be earned or fought for. As you drink, you think about the gods who watch over this city, their statues towering above the streets, their stories woven into the fabric of daily life. You wonder if they care for strangers like you, lost and adrift in this foreign land. You make your way to a nearby temple, its marble columns gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, priests chant prayers and offer sacrifices to Athena and Zeus. You watch in silence, feeling the weight of devotion and fear that permeates the sacred space. A priest approaches, his eyes sharp and penetrating. He asks your name and purpose, his tone stern. You stammer out your story, the words feeling clumsy and inadequate. He nods slowly but warns you that survival here requires more than faith. It requires strength, cunning, and respect for the city's laws and customs. You leave the temple with a heavy heart, the burden of your situation pressing down on you. As the day wears on, the heat intensifies, and the city's pace does not slow. You find yourself retreating to the shade of a narrow alley, where the coolness offers brief respite. You sit on the steps of a small house, watching the city's life unfold around you. Children play games in the street, merchants haggle loudly, and women carry baskets of laundry and food. You feel the sharp contrast between their ease and your own discomfort. They belong here, you do not. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows and painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The city sounds soften, replaced by the gentle murmur of evening prayers and the occasional bark of a dog. You return to your room, exhausted and hungry, but determined to endure another day. You know the path ahead is fraught with challenges, the language barrier, the customs you must learn, the debts you may incur, but you also know that survival depends on your ability to adapt. As you lie on your thin mattress, the sounds of the city lull you into a restless sleep, filled with dreams of home and the uncertain future that awaits. You awake once more to the faint glow of dawn seeping through your shutters, the cool air still clinging to the stone walls of your small room. Your body aches in unfamiliar ways. Muscles tighten from yesterday's wandering and joints stiffen from nights spent on hard surfaces. Hunger claws at your belly like a restless animal, sharp and unyielding. You pull yourself upright, the rough wool of your tunic scraping your skin as you dress slowly, deliberately. Outside, the city is already alive. The faint murmur of early risers drifts through the open window. Vendors setting up stalls, slaves carrying water jars, and distant bells calling the faithful to morning prayers. You step outside and into the brightening streets, the sun already high enough to cast stark shadows. The heat wraps around you like a heavy cloak, unrelenting and unforgiving. Sweat beads on your forehead and trickles down your back. The worn sandals on your feet, a little protection from the hot stones beneath you. Every step a reminder of your vulnerability. You make your way toward the agora, the bustling heart of the city. Here, merchants shout their wares, philosophers debate loudly in the shade of marble columns, and citizens move with purpose, each a thread in the vast tapestry of Athens. But to you, the agora is a place of danger and confusion. The language still slips through your fingers like water, and the customs remain a labyrinth you have yet to navigate fully. As you weave through the crowd, the scents of spices, fresh fish, and roasted meat assault your senses. You pause by a stall where a man sells dried figs and olives, their dark colours gleaming in the sunlight. You reach into your purse, counting the few copper coins you have left. They barely cover a handful of figs, enough for a meager meal. You barter awkwardly, your broken words stumbling over the native tongue. The merchant's face hardens as he sizes you up, another stranger desperate for scraps. He offers you a deal, but you can tell it is one made to benefit him more than you. You accept, knowing that bargaining is better than walking away empty-handed. With your small purchase clutched tightly, you find a quiet corner beneath a stone portico. You eat slowly. The sweet figs are welcome relief to the gnawing emptiness inside. Your thoughts wander to the stories you've heard about this city, the grandeur of the Parthenon, the wisdom of its philosophers, the valor of its warriors. Yet, the reality you live is far removed from such glory. Here, survival means navigating a world where every glance can hide hostility, every word carries weight, and every misstep could cost you dearly. As you sit, a sudden commotion draws your attention. A group of men gather around a figure in the center, an older man, his hair white and face lined with age, speaking passionately. His words are clear and commanding, his gestures sweeping. He is a philosopher, perhaps, or a politician. You strain to catch meaning, recognizing fragments, justice, citizen law, but the full weight of his speech remains elusive. Around him, listeners nod and murmur, their faces animated. You feel a pang of longing for understanding, for connection to this world that moves too fast and speaks too sharply for you. A hand suddenly grabs your arm, rough and insistent. You turn to see a younger man, his eyes cold and suspicious. "Stranger," he says sharply, "you do not belong here. Leave before you bring trouble." Your heart pounds. You try to explain, your words clumsy and fragmented. "No trouble," you say, "just trying to live." He sneers and pushes you back into the crowd. You stumble, nearly falling, but catch yourself on a pillar. The man's words echo in your mind, a harsh reminder of your place in this city. Always an outsider, always at risk. You pull your cloak tighter, trying to disappear into the throng. The faces around you blur, some indifferent, some hostile. You realize that survival here requires more than strength or knowledge. It requires invisibility, a careful balance between presence and absence. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly. You seek refuge in a small temple dedicated to Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. Inside, the air is cooler, scented with burning incense and ancient stone. You watch as priests perform rituals, pouring wine on altars, chanting prayers in a melodic tongue. Their devotion is deep and practiced, their movements fluid and purposeful. You wonder if the gods watch over you, a lost stranger wandering their city. But the silence of the temple offers no answer. Outside, the city's pace slows as shadows lengthen. Vendors pack away their goods, children run home to supper, and the air cools slightly. You find a quiet spot on the steps of a building and sit, the hard stone a welcome rest for your aching body. Your mind drifts to the debts you have accrued, not just in coin, but in favors owed and respect yet to be earned. You know that every debt is a chain, binding you tighter to this unforgiving place. You take out the worn parchment given to you by the woman who helped before. The strange symbols stare back, confusing and tantalizing. You practice the letters again, alpha, beta, gamma, your tongue twisting painfully. It feels like learning to breathe again, slow and deliberate. As night falls, the city quiets but never truly sleeps. The distant sound of laughter and music drifts through the streets, mingling with the occasional bark of a dog or the clatter of a late traveler's footsteps. You return to your room, the thin mattress welcoming but unyielding. Lying down, you stare at the ceiling and wonder how many more days you can endure this harsh, foreign life. You think of home, The soft beds, familiar voices, simple meals. But this city, with all its beauty and brutality, is now your world. And surviving it means learning its language, its customs, and its shadows. The morning light seeps through the cracks in your window shutters with a pale persistence, just as relentless as the city itself. Your body is stiff, your muscles still sore from days spent navigating this strange, sprawling place. Hunger pulls at you again, a constant companion, unrelenting and demanding. You dress quickly in your worn tunic and sandals, trying to ignore the prickling sweat that forms beneath the coarse fabric. Outside, the streets are already humming with life vendors shouting their wares, children darting between legs, and the distant clanging of the blacksmith's hammer setting the rhythm for the day. Your steps take you once more to the agora, the marketplace where the city's heart beats loudest. The air is thick with the scents of fresh fish, dried herbs, baked bread, and the unmistakable musk of animals being led to market. The sounds are a mixture of bartering, laughter, and the occasional sharp word, a cacophony that both fascinates and overwhelms. You clutch the small pouch of coins tighter. Each piece is precious, each one a potential meal or a necessary purchase. Your mind races as you try to decide what to spend them on. Food, shelter, information? A woman nearby calls out, her voice sharp and clear in the morning air, hawking her wares, bright fruits, hand-woven fabrics, and clay pots. You watch her eyes, calculating and quick, darting from person to person. She reminds you of the woman who helped you before, but there is no kindness in this stranger's gaze. You approach cautiously and ask the price of a small loaf of bread. Her smile is thin, her response quick and businesslike. You count your coins carefully. It will just barely cover the cost. You hand over the money and clutch the bread like a treasure, breaking off a piece and savoring the crumb. The bread is hard and dry, but to you it is a feast. As you eat, your eyes wander to a commotion at the far end of the agora. A crowd has gathered, their faces tense and curious. You move closer, curiosity overcoming your caution. At the center stands a man, bound by ropes and guarded by two stern soldiers. His clothes are fine, and his demeanor proud despite his predicament. The crowd murmurs, some shout accusations, others whisper rumors. You catch fragments of speech. Theft, debt, betrayal. The man's voice rises, denying the charges, but the guards are unmoved. You realize you are witnessing a public trial, a spectacle where justice is swift and unforgiving. The crowd's mood shifts rapidly. Sympathy for the accused quickly gives way to demands for punishment. The man's fate will be decided not just by the law, but by the will of the people. You shiver, feeling the weight of your own precarious position. Here, justice is not a distant ideal. It is a blunt force that can crush without warning. As the trial ends with the crowd's cries for punishment, the bound man is dragged away. The crowd disperses, the air thick with tension and fear. You turn away, heart pounding, and make your way to a quieter corner of the city. The sun climbs higher, its heat suffocating. You seek shade beneath the marble pillars of a nearby temple. The cool stone is a welcome relief, and the scent of burning incense fills the air. You watch as worshippers come and go, their faces serene and confident in their place within the city's order. They pray, offer sacrifices, and speak words you only half understand. You long to belong to their world, to have a place among them. But for now, you are an outsider, a stranger navigating a maze of customs, laws, and expectations. You think of the bound man and wonder how many others like him have fallen victim to this unforgiving city. As afternoon fades to evening, the marketplace empties, and the city's pace slows. You return to your humble room, the stone floor cool beneath your feet. You eat the last of your bread slowly, savoring each bite. The weight of the day settles over you, heavy and unyielding. You lie down on your thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. The city is beautiful and brutal, ancient and alive. You know survival here will demand everything you have and more. And so, with a deep breath, you prepare yourself for another day. The morning dawns cool and quiet, the soft light filtering through the slats of your wooden shutters like pale fingers seeking entrance. You wake with a heaviness settled deep in your bones, an exhaustion not just of body, but of spirit. The city feels less like a home with each passing day, and more like a cage made of stone and heat. You dress slowly, the rough fabric of your tunic scratching at your skin. Your worn sandals are cracked, and the leather straps dig into your tired feet. Hunger gnaws with steady persistence, a dull ache that no major meal has yet soothed. Outside, the city hums with life. But there is an edge of tension you hadn't noticed before, a sharpness beneath the bustle, like a blade hidden beneath a cloak. You move toward the agora, the marketplace that sprawls like a living thing through the city's heart. Today, it feels different. Quieter in some ways, the usual cacophony subdued. Merchants call out less eagerly, and the usual groups of animated philosophers seem fewer, their debates clipped and cautious. You navigate through the crowd, your senses alert. You notice eyes watching you, some curious, others wary. You try to avoid drawing attention, but your unfamiliar clothes and hesitant speech betray you. A man nearby, a well-dressed citizen, catches your gaze and sneers before turning away. His disdain is a bitter reminder of your status here, outsider, stranger, unknown. You continue onward, drawn by a faint sound, the soft murmurs of a gathering near the city's law courts. You approach cautiously, weaving through the crowd until you stand at the edge. Before you, a young woman kneels, her head bowed low. Her hands are bound, and her face is streaked with tears. A stern magistrate stands before her, his voice cold and unwavering as he recites charges you only partly understand. Theft, betrayal, perhaps worse. The crowd watches silently, the usual roadiness replaced by a suffocating stillness. You sense the danger in the air, the fragile balance between mercy and punishment. You think of your own fragile place in this city, the debts you owe, the knowledge you lack. The magistrate's words fall heavy, and the woman's fate seems sealed. A guard steps forward, ready to carry out the sentence. You feel a tightening in your chest, a mix of fear and helplessness. There is no place here for mercy or weakness. You retreat quietly, weaving back into the labyrinth of streets, your heart pounding with unease. Later, you find yourself near a small shrine tucked between two buildings. The scent of burning herbs and incense drifts in the air, a faint comfort amid the city's harshness. You sit on a worn stone bench, the cool surface grounding you. The sounds of the city fade slightly here, replaced by the soft chant of prayers and the gentle murmur of worshippers. A young priestess approaches, her eyes kind but cautious. She speaks softly, offering words of comfort in a language you grasp only partially. She senses your confusion, your fear, your loneliness. She tells you to be careful, to watch and listen, to learn the city's rhythms before making mistakes that could cost you dearly. You nod, grateful for the small kindness in this vast, indifferent place. The day wears on, the heat intensifying as the sun climbs higher. You seek refuge beneath the marble pillars of the city's temples, the cool stone a brief respite. You watch as citizens move with practiced ease. Traders negotiating deals, women carrying water jars with graceful balance, soldiers marching in formation. You feel the gap between them and yourself, a gulf carved by language, custom, and time. As dusk falls, the city takes on a different character. Torches flicker to life, casting long shadows on the walls. The sounds shift, laughter and music rise from taverns, and the smell of roasted meat drifts through the air. You return to your small room, the stone floor cool beneath your tired feet. You sit by the window, watching the stars blink to life overhead. Their distant light feels cold and indifferent, like the city itself. You wonder how long you can endure this place, its beauty and brutality intertwined. You think of home, the soft beds, the familiar voices, the warmth of belonging. But here, in this ancient city of gods and men, you are a stranger still, and survival will demand more than courage. It will require silence, patience, and a willingness to disappear. The day breaks with a sky streaked in soft pink and gold, a false promise of gentleness that soon fades beneath the unyielding glare of the sun. You awaken with a heaviness pressing down on your chest, a mix of exhaustion, hunger, and something you cannot yet name. The city is already stirring outside your window, the familiar sounds of merchants setting up their stalls, children laughing, and soldiers marching in the distance. You rise slowly, your body protesting with each movement. The rough fabric of your tunic scratches your skin, your sandals cracked and worn from days of walking. You dress methodically, trying to prepare yourself for the day ahead, but the uncertainty clings to you like a shadow. Outside, the air is thick with heat and the scent of olive oil and fresh bread. You step into the bustling streets, the stones beneath your feet burning in the growing sun. The city feels alive and indifferent all at once, a living beast that neither welcomes nor spares. You make your way toward the training grounds where soldiers practice their drills. Their armor gleams in the sun, their movements sharp and disciplined. You watch from the sidelines, your eyes drawn to their strength and unity, a stark contrast to your own fragility. A young soldier notices you and approaches, his gaze sharp and assessing. He speaks quickly, his words clipped and unfamiliar. You struggle to respond, your broken language betraying your foreignness. He narrows his eyes and gestures toward the city gates. "You don't belong here," he says bluntly. His words hit like a blow, and you lower your gaze, feeling the sting of rejection. The city's pride is wrapped tightly around its warriors and citizens, and outsiders are often met with suspicion or disdain. You turn away, your heart heavy. Survival here means more than food and shelter. It means understanding the unspoken rules of pride and power. As you wander the streets, you pass a group of men engaged in a heated debate. Their voices rise and fall in passion, discussing law's honor and the fate of the city. Their words are dense with meaning, and you catch fragments. Justice, courage, betrayal. You realize that here, words are weapons as sharp as swords, wielded with precision and intent. Hungry and thirsty, you seek out a small tavern tucked away in a quiet alley. The air inside is thick with smoke and the scent of roasting meat. You order the smallest portion of food available, a handful of olives and a piece of hard bread, and a cup of watered-down wine. As you eat, you listen to the conversations around you. Stories of battles fought, alliances forged, and betrayals endured fill the room. The patrons' faces are weathered and serious, their voices heavy with experience. You wonder if you could ever be part of their world, if you could ever find a place where your voice is heard and your presence accepted. After eating, you step outside into the fading light of afternoon. The city streets are crowded, shadows growing long as the sun dips toward the horizon. You move toward a quiet corner, seeking refuge from the heat and the bustle. There, you encounter an old man sitting beneath a tree, his eyes sharp despite the wrinkles etched into his face. He watches you carefully and motions for you to sit beside him. You hesitate but are drawn by the kindness in his gaze. You settle beside him, the rough stone cool beneath you. He speaks slowly, his words deliberate. "This city is not kind to strangers," he says. "You must learn to carry yourself with pride, even when you feel none." You nod, absorbing his wisdom, feeling the weight of his words settle over you. He tells you stories of heroes and gods, of battles won and lost, of honor and sacrifice. His voice is steady, weaving a tapestry of the city's past and present. You listen, captivated, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within you. As dusk falls, the city's energy shifts. Torches light the streets, and music and laughter spill from taverns and homes. The night air cools, carrying the scent of jasmine and sea salt. You return to your small room, the thin mattress a hard comfort beneath you. You lie awake, the old man's stories echoing in your mind. You realize that survival here will demand more than endurance. It will require pride, strength, and the courage to face the city's harsh truths. You close your eyes, the sounds of the city fading into a restless silence. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now, you hold on to the hope kindled by an old man's words. Dawn arrives heavy and humid, pressing against your skin like a shroud. You awaken with the taste of dust and salt lingering in your mouth, the weariness of countless restless nights weighing down your limbs. The stone floor beneath your thin mattress feels colder than before, the chill seeping into your bones. Outside, the city breathes in long, slow waves. The sounds are familiar yet still foreign. The clang of metal on metal from the blacksmith's forge, the rhythmic thud of leather sandals against cobblestones, the faint murmur of voices blending into the city's ceaseless hum. You rise slowly, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, pulling on your rough, spun tunic that clings damply to your skin. Your sandals creak softly as you step out into the narrow alley, sunlight filtering through the gaps between buildings like liquid gold. The city awakens around you, merchants arranging their goods in colorful displays, women carrying woven baskets laden with fresh bread and fragrant herbs, men gathering in small clusters to discuss the latest news or philosophy. Today, you are drawn toward the temple of Athena, the goddess whose wisdom is revered here. The marble steps are cool beneath your feet as you ascend, the columns towering above like silent sentinels guarding secrets centuries old. Inside, the air is thick with incense and solemn chants. Priests and priestesses move with practiced grace, performing rituals that have been repeated for generations. You watch as they pour wine upon altars, scatter fragrant herbs, and recite prayers in a language both beautiful and bewildering. You long to join them, to be part of this sacred rhythm, but you are an outsider, a stranger still learning the dance. A priestess notices your presence and approaches, her eyes gentle but questioning. She speaks softly, her words slow and deliberate, as if inviting you to understand without pressure. She explains the importance of ritual here, not just as ceremony, but as a binding force that connects the city's people to each other and to the divine. You listen carefully, feeling the weight of belonging pressed between her words. She offers you a small token, a sprig of olive leaves, symbolizing peace and endurance. You accept it with gratitude, clutching it tightly as if it might grant you some measure of acceptance. Leaving the temple, you step back into the sunlit streets, the city now alive with activity and purpose. You wander toward the market, your senses assaulted by the riot of colors, smells, and sounds. The vendors shout their wares, the scent of ripe figs mingling with the sharp tang of fresh fish and the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil. You pause at a stall where a man sells finely crafted pottery. His eyes flicker with recognition as he notices your worn clothing and uncertain demeanor. "Not from here," he says bluntly, his tone neither hostile nor kind. You nod, trying to speak but finding the words tangled in your throat. He shrugs and turns away, leaving you to face the crowd alone. You realize once again that the city's rhythms are not easily learned. As the day stretches on, you notice the subtle ways people communicate, the nods of respect between elders, the quick glances exchanged by merchants, the measured silences that speak volumes. You try to mimic these gestures, knowing that language is not only spoken but shown in every movement. Later, you find a quiet courtyard shaded by olive trees. You sit on a worn stone bench, the dappled sunlight warming your face. You pull out the worn parchment with its strange symbols and begin to practice again. Alpha, beta, gamma, your tongue twisting painfully. A soft voice interrupts your concentration. You look up to see a child, no older than 7, watching you with wide, curious eyes. She giggles and tries to mimic the sounds, her pronunciation far better than yours. You smile, feeling a small flicker of connection. She takes your hand and leads you to a group of children playing nearby. They welcome you with shy smiles and eager questions. For a brief moment, you are not a stranger but a participant in their world. But as the sun dips toward the horizon, the spell breaks. The children are called home, their laughter fading into the evening air. You are left alone once more, clutching the sprig of olive leaves and the worn parchment, symbols of a life you are still struggling to claim. The city's lights begin to flicker on, torches, lamps, and candles casting dancing shadows on whitewashed walls. You return to your room, the weight of the day settling over you like a heavy cloak. You lie on your thin mattress, the cool stone beneath a stark contrast to the warmth of the city outside. Your thoughts drift to the rituals you witnessed, the prayers, the offerings, the silent understandings that bind this place together. You realize that survival here is not only a matter of language or strength, but of belonging, and belonging demands sacrifice. The sacrifice of silence, of patience, and of pride. You close your eyes, the olive leaves resting gently on your chest, and wonder how many more days you can endure this delicate balance. The dawn breaks with a cold sharpness that cuts through the night's restless shadows. Your sleep was shallow, haunted by dreams of judgment and unfamiliar faces. The stone floor beneath your thin mattress feels harder than ever as you push yourself up, muscles tight from tension and the lingering wariness of a life on edge. Outside, the city breathes a familiar rhythm, the clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the rhythmic pounding of a blacksmith's hammer, the distant calls of merchants hawking their wares. But beneath the everyday sounds, there is an undercurrent you cannot yet name, a whisper of something darker lurking beneath the city's sunlit facade. You dress hastily in your rough tunic, the coarse fabric chafing your skin, and pull on your cracked sandals. Hunger gnaws at your belly, a dull ache that has become a constant companion. You clutch your small pouch of coins tightly, knowing each piece is precious, and venture out into the city's bustling streets. Today, your steps lead you toward the law courts, a grand building of marble and shadow where justice is dispensed swiftly and often harshly. The steps are crowded with citizens, some seeking judgment, others awaiting verdicts, their faces etched with worry, hope, or cold resolve. You stand at the edge, observing the proceedings from a distance. A man is brought before the magistrate, accused of failing to repay a debt. The magistrate's voice is stern and unyielding as he declares the man's fate. Imprisonment until the debt is paid or labor is offered as recompense. The crowd murmurs, some nodding in agreement, others whispering sympathy. You watch the man's face, pale and drawn, as he is led away in chains. The weight of obligation here is heavier than stone, binding men and women alike in invisible shackles. You think of your own precarious position, the debts you have yet to repay, debts not only in coin but in favors, respect and survival. A sharp voice breaks through your thoughts.
You there, stranger?
You turn to see a guard, his gaze hard and suspicious. He steps closer, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Are you a citizen? He demands. You shake your head, the words coming slowly and haltingly. He narrows his eyes. Then you must be careful. The law does not favor those without standing. His warning hangs heavy in the air as he strides away, leaving you with a renewed sense of vulnerability. You move through the city streets, the weight of the law pressing down on you like a relentless tide. Every glance carries judgment. Every word can be twisted into accusation. You pass a tavern where a group of men laugh loudly, their voices carrying tales of bravery and conquest. They drink freely, their camaraderie a stark contrast to your isolation. You long to join them, to find a place among their ranks, but you know the path is barred by your status as an outsider. The sun climbs higher, its heat relentless and unforgiving. You seek refuge in a quiet courtyard shaded by olive trees, the cool air a balm to your weary body. There, you find a small group of women preparing food for the evening meal. Their hands move with practiced skill, chopping herbs and stirring pots over open fires. One of them catches your gaze and offers a faint smile, a small gesture of kindness in a city that often forgets the stranger. You nod in gratitude but say little. Words are a fragile currency here, and you spend yours sparingly. As evening approaches, the city takes on a softer hue. Torches flicker to life, casting long shadows on whitewashed walls. The sounds shift, laughter and music rise from taverns, and the scent of roasting meat mingles with the cool night air. You return to your room, the thin mattress a hard comfort beneath you. You sit by the small window, watching the stars blink to life overhead. The city feels vast and indifferent, a place where survival demands more than strength or cunning. It demands an understanding of its laws, its customs, and the burdens that bind its people. You close your eyes, the weight of obligation heavy on your heart, and wonder how long you can carry this burden. The morning light filters softly through the narrow window of your small room, casting elongated patterns on the stone floor. You awaken slowly, your body aching in places you didn't know could ache. The city outside hums to life with familiar sounds. The bleating of goats, the chatter of merchants, and the distant call of a temple priest. You rise and dress in your rough, spun tunic, the fabric scratchy and uncomfortable against your skin. Your sandals are cracked and dusty, the straps frayed from weeks of wear. Hunger gnaws persistently at your belly, a dull ache you have grown accustomed to. Stepping outside, you find the streets already busy with people preparing for the day ahead. Today, however, there is an unusual energy in the air. Whispers and hurried conversations hint at a feast to come. Banners hang from buildings, and the scent of roasting meat and fresh bread drifts through the city like a tantalizing promise. You follow the crowd toward the city's central square, where tables are being set up beneath colorful awnings. Citizens of all ranks gather, their faces animated with anticipation. Musicians tune their instruments, and dancers practice their steps, their movements graceful and practiced. You watch from the sidelines, your heart heavy with longing and the bitter sting of exclusion. The feast is a celebration of the city's gods and victories, a display of wealth, unity, and pride. Yet you are a stranger here, an outsider without invitation. A man in finely woven robes approaches, his eyes sharp and assessing. He He looks you up and down, noting your worn clothes and cautious demeanor. "You do not belong here," he says bluntly. You nod, biting back the words that threaten to spill from your lips. Survival here means knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The feast begins with offerings to the gods, wine poured onto altars, prayers chanted in a language you only half understand. The crowd responds with applause and cheers, their voices rising in unison. As the food is brought out, you notice the abundance roasted lamb, fresh fish, olives, figs, and bread soft enough to sink your teeth into. The wine flows freely, its heady scent intoxicating. You watch as the city's elite dine and converse, their laughter rich and easy. Their ease is a stark contrast to your own hunger and uncertainty. A young woman catches your gaze and offers a small smile, a fleeting gesture that warms your heart. She approaches hesitantly and speaks softly in broken words, offering a piece of bread. You accept gratefully, the taste of fresh bread a luxury you have not enjoyed in weeks. She introduces herself as Callista and invites you to join her at the table. The invitation is tentative but genuine. You follow her, heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. At the table, you meet others, traders, artisans, and scholars, each with their own stories and struggles. The conversation is lively, punctuated by laughter and thoughtful debate. You listen and contribute when you can, your words halting but sincere. As the feast continues, you begin to feel a fragile sense of belonging, a connection forged not by blood or birth, but by shared humanity. Yet, beneath the warmth of the celebration lies an undercurrent of caution. Trust is a precious commodity here, earned slowly and guarded fiercely. You realize that acceptance in this city comes at a price. The price of vigilance, discretion, and sometimes sacrifice. As the night deepens, the festivities wind down. The crowd disperses, leaving behind echoes of music and laughter. You walk back to your room beneath a sky dotted with stars. The sprig of olive leaves Callista gave you tucked carefully in your cloak. You lie down on your thin mattress, the taste of fresh bread lingering on your tongue, and a flicker of hope warming your chest. You know the road ahead remains uncertain and fraught with challenges, but tonight, for the first time, you feel a glimmer of belonging in this ancient city of gods and men. The dawn light spills weakly through the narrow cracks in your room's wooden shutters, failing to chase away the lingering shadows of restless sleep. Your body aches as if bearing invisible chains, and the morning chill seeps through the thin walls, creeping into your bones. Outside, the city is already stirring with the usual symphony. Clamorous merchants, the rhythmic pounding of the blacksmith's hammer, and the distant calls of philosophers debating in public squares. You rise slowly, pulling your worn tunic tighter around you. Your sandals are cracked and thin, barely clinging to your feet. Hunger nags again, a persistent ache that gnaws relentlessly, but today, something heavier sits with it, an unease born of whispers and shadows. As you step outside, the warmth of the sun's first rays grazes your skin, but the city feels different this morning. The usual lively chatter is tinged with tension, voices hushed, faces wary. People glance over shoulders and speak in cautious tones, as if afraid of being overheard. You move cautiously through the narrow streets, your eyes darting from one corner to the next, absorbing the subtle cues of the city's unease. A group of soldiers patrol near the agora, their armor gleaming, their expressions stern and unyielding. They exchange terse words with passing citizens, their presence a clear reminder of order enforced by force. You hear murmurs of a trial, a secret tribunal convened behind closed doors. The details are scarce, but the rumors suggest it concerns a matter grave enough to unsettle even the city's elite. Drawn by curiosity and a gnawing fear, you make your way to a secluded courtyard near the law courts. Here, voices are muffled, and eyes watch from shaded windows. A figure cloaked in dark robes approaches you, his face hidden beneath a heavy hood. His voice is low and gravelly as he warns you, "Stay silent, stranger." Some truths are dangerous to know. His words chill you more than the morning breeze. You nod, understanding that survival here demands not only strength but discretion. You wander through the city, your mind heavy with questions you dare not voice aloud. You watch as citizens go about their day, some with forced smiles, others with eyes clouded by worry. You recall the stories shared by the old man beneath the olive tree, tales of heroes and gods whose fates were sealed by secrets and sacrifice. The city's history is woven with hidden trials and silent bargains. Your thoughts are interrupted by the sound of laughter, a small child chasing a dog through a sunlit alley. The momentary joy is a stark contrast to the shadow lingering in your heart. Hungry and thirsty, you seek refuge in a quiet tavern tucked away from the main streets. The air inside is thick with smoke and the scent of roasted meat. You order a small portion of olives and bread that taste familiar but far from satisfying. As you eat, a group of patrons speak in hushed tones about the city's unrest. Their words hint at betrayals and conspiracies, alliances forged and broken in secret. You realize that beneath the city's vibrant surface lies a web of intrigue, where trust is fragile and danger hides in plain sight. Leaving the tavern, you make your way to the Temple of Athena, seeking solace in the goddess's sanctuary. The marble pillars gleam softly in the afternoon light, and the scent of burning incense offers a fleeting comfort. Inside, the priests move with solemn grace, performing rituals steeped in tradition. You watch, longing to understand the meaning behind the gestures and prayers, hoping to find a place within this world of faith and order. As twilight descends, the city's streets grow quieter. Torches flicker to life, casting long shadows that dance on whitewashed walls. The air cools, and the sounds of distant music and laughter drift through the night. You return to your small room, the weight of the day pressing heavily upon you. The worn parchment with its strange symbols lies on the table, a reminder of the language you struggle to master. You trace the letters slowly, alpha, beta, gamma, each stroke a small victory against the overwhelming unfamiliarity. Lying down, you clutch the sprig of olive leaves Callista gave you, a fragile token of hope amidst the city's darkness. You close your eyes, the city's shadows mingling with the flickering light of distant torches, and wonder how many more secrets you will have to carry before you can truly belong. The morning sun rises reluctantly, casting a pale, hesitant light through the narrow cracks in your room's shutters. Your body aches with the dull throb of exhaustion and the sharper pangs of hunger that have become constant companions. The rough wool of your tunic clings uncomfortably to your damp skin, and your cracked sandals scrape against the worn stone floor as you prepare to face another day in this ancient city. Outside, the city stirs with a familiar rhythm. The clatter of horse hooves on cobblestones, the cries of merchants hawking their wares, and the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer shaping molten metal. Yet beneath these everyday sounds, you sense a tension that has not been there before, an invisible weight pressing down on the citizens. You move through the streets cautiously, your eyes scanning the faces around you. There is a hardened set to many of them, a wariness born of unspoken struggles and constant vigilance. You notice soldiers in gleaming armor patrolling with more intensity, their hands never far from the hilts of their swords. As you pass near the city's gymnasium, you catch sight of young men training under the watchful eyes of stern instructors. Their bodies gleam with sweat, muscles taut and disciplined, a testament to the city's relentless demand for strength and honor. You watch with a mixture of awe and envy, aware that you could never match their skill or earn their respect. Your thoughts drift to the stories you have heard, tales of warriors who died with honor on the battlefield, their names etched into the city's memory. Honor here is not a luxury, it is a currency more valuable than gold and more fragile than glass. You make your way toward the agora, where the city's leaders often gather to debate matters of state and law. Today, a heated discussion draws a large crowd. Voices rise and fall in passionate argument, words sharp as swords. You catch fragments: loyalty, betrayal, justice. A man steps forward, his voice ringing out with authority. He speaks of duty to the city, of the sacrifices demanded of every citizen. His words are met with nods of agreement and murmurs of dissent. You stand at the edge of the crowd, feeling the weight of their expectations and the gulf that separates you from belonging. Here, honor is not only demanded but enforced, and defiance carries a heavy price. Hungry and thirsty, you seek out a small tavern tucked away from the main streets. The air inside is thick with smoke and the scent of roasting meat. You order the smallest portion available, some olives, a piece of hard bread, and a cup of watered wine. As you eat, you overhear a conversation between two men discussing recent arrests and punishments for those who dared to challenge the city's laws. The words send a chill through you, a stark reminder of the consequences of defiance. You realize that survival here requires not only strength and cunning, but a willingness to accept the city's harsh rules and to mask your true thoughts behind a veil of obedience. Later, you find yourself wandering toward the city's walls, where the sea stretches endlessly beyond. The salty breeze offers a brief respite from the stifling heat and tension. You watch the waves crash against the shore, their relentless rhythm a reminder that life moves on, regardless of human struggles. A figure approaches, a fellow outsider you have met briefly before. He nods in greeting and offers a rare smile. Together, you share stories of hardship and hope, of dreams deferred and resilience forged in the fire of adversity. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. Torches flicker to life along the streets, casting long shadows that dance on the whitewashed walls. You return to your small room, the thin mattress a hard comfort beneath you. You lie down, your thoughts heavy with the day's lessons, the cost of honor, the danger of defiance, and the fragile threads that hold this city together. Clutching the sprig of olive leaves close to your heart, you close your eyes and prepare to face whatever tomorrow brings. The first light of dawn slips quietly through the cracks in your shutters, painting your small room in soft hues of gold and rose. You lie still for a moment, the weight of countless days pressing down on your chest, mingling with a fragile thread of hope that has been growing, however faint, within you. Your body aches with the weariness of survival, the bruises of unseen battles fading but not forgotten. Yet, beneath that exhaustion lies a stirring, an ember kindled by the small victories, the connections forged, and the knowledge slowly gained. You rise, feeling the rough texture of your tunic against your skin, your sandals worn thin from the long path you have walked. Outside, the city hums softly. The murmur of voices preparing for the day, the distant clang of metal, the gentle call of birds heralding morning. You step into the streets with a cautious confidence, the familiar stones beneath your feet grounding you in a world that has long seemed foreign. Today, the city feels less like an adversary and more like a challenge you are learning to meet. Passing the marketplace, you see familiar faces. Callista smiling from her stall, the old man beneath the olive tree nodding in greeting, and even the soldiers whose eyes once held suspicion now offer curt nods of acknowledgement. The weight of exclusion that once pressed so heavily upon you has begun to lift, replaced by the tentative threads of belonging woven through daily acts and shared moments. You make your way to the temple of Athena, the goddess whose wisdom has been a beacon in the darkness. The marble steps feel cool beneath your feet, and the scent of incense and olive oil fills the air. Inside, the priests and priestesses move with solemn grace, their rituals a dance of tradition and faith. You watch and listen, recognizing now the language beyond words, the unspoken understandings, the gestures steeped in meaning. A priestess approaches, her eyes warm as she offers you a small scroll, inscribed with symbols you have learned to read. It is a token of acceptance, an invitation to learn and participate. You take the scroll with trembling hands, the significance sinking deep into your heart. The city's rhythms no longer feel alien, but part of a shared melody you are beginning to understand. Later, you join Callista and others in the marketplace, the sun casting a golden glow over the bustling scene. Together, you share food, stories, and laughter, the simple yet profound acts that weave the fabric of community. You realize that survival here is no longer just about endurance but about connection, the willingness to open your heart despite fear and uncertainty. As the day wanes, you find yourself standing atop the city's walls, gazing out over the sea that stretches endlessly beyond. The horizon is a line of possibility, a reminder that life's journey extends far beyond the confines of this ancient city. You clutch the sprig of olive leaves close to your chest, a symbol of peace and endurance, of the trials endured and the hope that endures. The sun sets in a blaze of color, painting the sky with fiery reds and soft purples. The city lights begin to twinkle, mirroring the stars above. You close your eyes, breathing in the cool evening air, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the path you have walked, winding, difficult, and transformative. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new lessons, and new moments of growth. But for now you rest in the quiet strength born of acceptance and the courage to continue. In this ancient city of gods and men, you have found not just survival, but a beginning. And with that, the story turns not to an end, but to the endless possibilities of the journey ahead.